Welcome back. We're nearing the end of the Arkham Knight side mission rating videos, so let me outline the future of the channel until the end of the year. And if you're not bothered about all that, skip to the timestamp on screen and get right into the video. So after this video, I'll be uploading mission rankings on Heir to the Cowl, Azrael's mission, Shadow War, Ra's al Ghul's mission, and then as a huge series finale, which will probably take months off my life to complete, The Riddler's Revenge. That will bring this series to an end just in time to begin work on the big Christmas video. I'm not even going to try and hide it this time because it's pretty obvious. It'll be a huge retrospective in the style of my previous Arkham Asylum video on Arkham Origins. I'm really looking forward to making that because Arkham Origins is genuinely one of my favourite Arkham games, and hopefully you'll enjoy watching it. Then in the new year the content will change. It'll still be Arkham, so don't worry if that's what you're here for, but I've got a few ideas that should be pretty fun, including the Arkham Knight No Death run, which is going surprisingly well. I've played about an hour so far and I've just come out of Ace Chemicals, but I haven't died, so by that metric it is going quite well. So yeah, that's it. Subscribe to see the conclusion to the series, and because we're so close to the 500 subs, which was my big goal come the end of the year, like the video and comment your favourite portrayal of the Penguin, and let's get into this. If you don't know how the rating system works around these parts, we rank story, gameplay and difficulty out of 10, and combine the scores at the end to give each side mission a rating out of 30. So let's start with the story for today's mission, Gunrunner. The story begins with Dick Grayson, Nightwing, wanting to meet Bruce on the rooftop of the Raleigh Ferry Terminal. Nightwing's been tracking down the Penguin's illicit firearm smuggling business, which is being ran through a front business of North Refrigeration. He invites Batman to meet up and break up a deal and track one of the North Refrigeration trucks back to one of Penguin's hideouts. The former dynamic duo discuss the mission at hand, and Nightwing hands Batman a prototype Disruptor, which has a tracker in it. Batman also tells Dick to go back to Bloodhaven, presumably due to the kidnapping of Oracle in this point in the story, and not wanting to lose another sidekick. Dick refuses and Batman tags the truck and begins tracking the scared thugs back to their first hideout. After breaking into the hideout and finding the first weapon cache, Batman is held captive and taunted by Penguin before Nightwing makes the save and helps Bruce out, taking the thugs out in a huge combat section as the Penguin escapes. Batman uses the explosive gel on the weapon cache and blows the first batch of the weapons up. Nightwing tells Batman that despite Batman not wanting his help and having his concerns, he's needed as much as he is in Bloodhaven, Gotham's neighbouring city, as he is in Gotham tonight, because Penguin's guns are on the streets in his city, and so to stop that, he's needed here. Batman reluctantly agrees and lets Nightwing tell him the location of the North Refrigeration trucks to be tracked to more hideouts. Nightwing then feeds information to Bruce regarding 3 more caches, doing the same trick as before, tagging a van and following it back to a cache before taking down the thugs guarding it with Nightwing's help, and then blowing the weapons up using the explosive gel, until after taking down one of the caches and Nightwing doesn't help out, Nightwing reveals that he's actually got Penguin right where he wants him. He's been taken hostage by the Penguin, which is what will happen to you if you don't subscribe, and now he needs to be saved. Batman follows Nightwing's tracker and finds he's being held in the Amatec building in Otisburg. He infiltrates the building and finds Nightwing being heavily guarded by Penguin's thugs, who are taunting him and beating him. Batman eventually finds a route in and smashes through the wall, saving Nightwing, as the pair launch into action and begin taking down Penguin's thugs in a huge fight. Working together, the pair take down Nightwing's captors, and assuming that this is the last cache, Batman heads into the weapons vault, sprays the explosive gel, and as he's about to blow the final weapons up, Penguin takes Nightwing at gunpoint, and Dick begins telling Oswald about the Flying Graysons and how good they were, before elbowing Penguin and setting him up to be slammed down by Batman, before Bruce pins Oswald down and blows the final weapon cache up, much to the dismay and angry outrage of the Penguin, before Bruce shuts him up completely. Here we get one of the most emotional scenes in the game. Knowing he won't, or at least Batman won't survive the night, Bruce tells Dick he's proud of him. Dick brushes this off before realising how serious Bruce is being, and the Dark Knight tells his protege to keep Bloodhaven safe, and Nightwing promises to do that, but grapples away. Batman puts Cobblepot in the back of the Batmobile and takes him to the GCPD, throwing him in a cell with the rest of Gotham's Most Wanted, while he berates his former partner in crime, Two-Face, for their combined failure. The story of Gunrunner is a simple one. It's a good one though. The Penguin's a character that I've always had mixed feelings on, sometimes finding him to be a bit one-dimensional and dull, but this story was fun. It gave plenty of time for characters to shine, especially Cobblepot himself, who is one of the funniest characters in this game, talking to his men in a way that only he could. Nightwing's involvement here is good too. It expands the Arkhamverse to Bloodhaven, which is now clearly turf that typically Gotham-based villains operate in, and it was good to know that Rocksteady wanted to make this known. The dynamic between Bruce and Dick is also great. It's exactly what you'd expect, but the fact Nightwing is established as his own hero, and Bruce knows that the end of his time as a hero is near the end, really makes this feel like an unofficial passing of the torch, despite Nightwing being placed in Bloodhaven. The story presents a great ending as well. It's emotional and strikes a chord that only the impending death of a beloved hero could. No matter when you complete the mission line, Batman talks like he knows it's the end, and speaks to Nightwing accordingly, telling him he's proud of him and instructing him to keep Bloodhaven safe. It's a short exchange, but one that tells you enough to know tonight's the night Batman dies. Whether it be the myth or the man, tonight will change Batman and thus his family forever. Overall, given the decent story, Penguin's great showing, and the extended relationship shown between an established Nightwing and a veteran Batman who's nearing the end of the road, I find it quite hard to knock this story. It could have given Penguin more actual screen time, but that might just be a bit greedy of me to ask. So overall, Gunrunner's story gets a very respectable 8 out of 10, ranking it against the other side missions, and it's one of the better storylines in this game. It has backstory, emotional stakes, and most importantly, a good overarching narrative, albeit a simple one. So, now we know what the story of the mission is like, let's take a look at the gameplay. The gameplay of Gunrunner boils down to 4 things: tracking the vans back to the weapon caches, breaking into the cache, taking down the thugs guarding it, and then blowing the weapons up. This is a fun loop for the most part. The start of each mission where you have to follow the van back to the cache is pretty cool, although sometimes the henchmen seem to take the longest possible route to the cache, which is both quite funny and the most annoying thing ever. You have to make sure Batman isn't spotted on your way back to the cache, which means you have to hang back just enough to lure them into a false sense of security, but keep your eyes on them so they don't get away. Once you get to the caches, each area has its own little challenge to get inside, whether it be a lone sniper, a Batmobile challenge, a combat section, or even a fully fleshed out stealth section. This provides an extra level of planning when you eventually get to the caches, and some of these sections are genuinely quite tricky. Nothing we haven't done before at this point in the story, but still enough to, for the most part, make you think strategically. Upon entering the caches, you get thrust into giant combat sections of various sizes and enemy variety, which, with the added mechanic of Nightwing, combines to create a really varied and fun experience until Nightwing is captured, which even then leaves us with a fun difference in gameplay for this mission, because all of the missions up until the point Nightwing's captured, we've been doing this work with help, but then we're just thrown in by ourselves. It's not much, but it's a fun mix-up, and I do genuinely think the gameplay for these missions is great. It keeps a strong sense of familiarity, but does enough to keep each encounter feeling different, and with the added character of Nightwing and the combat sections that come with that, it all feels fresh and fun despite the repetitive structure of the missions. One thing I'm always a little conflicted on is whether to give marks up or down for the staggered progression this game does a lot. For example, this mission requires you to go through the main story to unlock the next call from Nightwing, alerting you to the location of the North refrigeration trucks. I do think it's good that you can't just blitz through the story, and it makes sense canonically that Nightwing wouldn't just find these trucks to track instantly, and it's really not an issue for this mission in particular. But it's an interesting point that I never quite know whether to bring up, but just know that here, it works. So, in conclusion, the gameplay for this mission line is great. It's fun, varied, tests all of your skills, use most of your gadgets, and it doesn't rely too heavily on the Batmobile, which is a bonus for Night. And the inclusion of the tag team gameplay with Nightwing is great. It's always fun to fight alongside a member of the Bat family in this game, so for those reasons, it gets a 9 out of 10. It's nearly perfect. There's a case for it being perfect in all honesty, but given the lack of stealth sections within the caches and not just outside, it just misses out on a 10. Although, again, this is debatable. But alas, how difficult is this mission? Well, let's see. Difficulty is a sliding scale, so as per the previous ratings, I'm going to use a stand-in of someone who's played all the Arkham games on hard once, and is decent enough to take only a few hits per encounter. An above average player, so to speak. And so for this episode, I thought I'd fit someone fitting to join our previous alumni, as this video is coming out on Halloween. So say hello to Hannibal Lecter, world-renowned pro gamer, cannibal, and Arkham lawmaster. So let's see how difficult this is. Hannibal starts off by tracking the vans and finds this fairly easy. It's easy to tag the van as it's stationary, and as long as he's good with traversal, which, with all that time practicing in silence, he's able to track the vans relatively easy and heads inside the cache after completing the little challenge to get in. Lecter is good at stealth and combat, so gets in pretty easily. After getting inside, it boils down to straight combat, whether it be with Nightwing or not. Lecter finds this challenging due to the huge amount of enemies and the variety of weapons they have, but the added bonus of having an instant takedown at the ready with Nightwing at hand makes taking down the various brutes pretty easy for a man of his talents and ability. But the sheer number of enemies and the sheer variety of them bumps the difficulty up a fair bit when compared to other missions, and the entire mission line revolves around this type of combat section as the main part of the mission line, so there's no real trouble in describing the differences in difficulty per section, as they're all basically just slowly increasing in enemy numbers and variety, and obviously spraying the whole explosive gel on the weapons is no challenge. The whole mission line's pretty easy for Hannibal, and there's no evaluation needed to see his natural ability when it comes to taking down the thugs and gunrunners of Gotham City. I do wish this section could be longer, but I need to make this quick because I'm having an old friend for dinner later. So overall, Gunrunner gets an 8 out of 10 for difficulty. In comparison to other side missions, the sheer number of enemies and the weapons and environmental hazards that surround them do make for a pretty decent challenge as the mission goes on, and it's a great level of difficulty for a great mission line. Overall, Gunrunner ends with a highly respectable 25 out of 30, putting it in the upper echelon of side missions in Batman Arkham Knight. Gunrunner is a great mission line. Lengthwise, it's long enough to feel fulfilling and complete, but short enough to not overstay its welcome. It holds a great line between being a story-driven bit of side content with a clear and enjoyable narrative that expands the Arkham universe, with the implications of Oswald's crime extending to and affecting Bloodhaven, which adds some stakes outside of Gotham, however far away those stakes may seem given the size of Gotham and the amount of missions in this game, and a fun sort of beat-em-up style mission line. I really like this mission, despite the fact I've never been a huge fan of Penguin as a villain, which goes to show this mission's undeniable quality and overall fun aspect. The actual mission structure's fun as well, and the various large combat sections are really cool, because combat both solo and tag team is great here, and this mission gives you plenty of that to go through. Tracking the vans is fun and makes you really use your wings to explore Gotham and find the caches by staying just about out of sight of the vans. But I think that's about it for this mission. Let me know what you think about this mission line if you've played it. Subscribe so we can hit the big 500 mark before the new year. Go watch the retrospective on Arkham Asylum, I think you'll really enjoy it. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and goodbye.